Welcome to the Rivalry Rapid Recap. On this episode, we are going to talk about the current DPC disaster. That's right, the Dota 2 Pro Circuit, and are we going to see any resolution anytime soon? Now, it is important to note before I go into some of the details that it was announced that Valve has partnered with the Shanghai government to launch Steam in China. Now, to catch you up on what's happening with the Dota 2 Pro Circuit, two players, Scamberloo and Kuku, have been allegedly banned, although there is no official statement from Valve as of yet about this, from the upcoming Chongqing Major. Cyborg Matt is the source of this information currently. He says these two players are both banned, and there's a chance that they will also be banned from the International 9, which will be held in Shanghai. These bans originate because of racist comments made by both of these players. For Scam, it was in a professional game during the Dream League Minor, and he was immediately reprimanded by Complexity, fined, and apologized for his actions. Kuku used the same term in a pub game, and then tried to cover that up by saying that the player he used it against actually had that as their ID. As it turns out later, that player only then changed it to their ID after the incident. Valve did eventually respond on November 10th, and if you'll notice, that Complexity date was November 1st for when that incident happened with Scamberloo. So Valve took their own sweet time in coming out with a statement, and the statement was rather vague, as is typical Valve fashion. Now, unfortunately, this Valve announcement came over a week later, which gave plenty of time for the Chinese community to become very angry, and now we are facing these ban issues for one of the 5 DPC events where these points will be very, very important to actually make it into TI9, which will also be in China, and these players could continue to be banned, significantly hampering any teams that they choose to play on. Nahaz wrote a piece for us at Rivalry discussing the leadership issues at Valve, detailing several different situations over the past about 6 months or so with professional players, lack of communication, and lack of clear rules that have led to significant incidents that really challenge the competitive integrity of these tournaments and put several teams at a disadvantage. One such incident is the case of the first DPC major this year, the Kuala Lumpur Major. Now, because it was held in Malaysia and they do not recognize Israel, 33 with an Israeli passport could not actually make it to the major, so NIP were forced to play with a stand-in. Now, they faced zero communication from Valve, as if you play with a stand-in at a DPC event, you sacrifice 40% of your points. PPD had to take to Twitter and Reddit to get any kind of response from Valve about whether or not his team, NIP, would lose points for using a stand-in for something that was entirely out of their control. Now, Valve never issued a public statement. We just had the word of PPD that, oh, these points will not be held against them. They will receive full points for however they place in the major. And unfortunately for 33, he was unable to compete, and as he stated on Twitter quite some time ago, he hopes that Valve will be holding tournaments in countries that do not have these kinds of restrictions so that everyone will be able to compete. PPD put out a tweet longer earlier today about the SA qualifiers. So when he was on Optic, he asked Valve if it would be okay if Optic were to play from South America in order to play in the South American qualifiers. And then he also asked the same thing for NIP, as they do have facilities in South America for the team to play in. He was told no, this was not going to happen, and very specifically, they said, if you feel like you're cheating the system, you probably are, and this is unacceptable. So this was not publicly communicated by Valve. The only communication they have given is that in order to play in a DPC qualifier, you must be playing from that region, meaning that were you, say, CCNC's team and you flew down to South America just for the qualifiers, you could participate in South American qualifiers without being a part of that region long term. Now, I spoke briefly with Swato, who is a key member of BTS ES, and so he's very well known and connected in the South American scene, and I asked him, what are the discussions surrounding these topics? And why is this such an issue that North American teams or other teams are kind of taking over South America and taking away their qualifying spots? And basically, South America has almost no money invested in the scene, so they need these DPC events to get money, structure, and sponsors to help grow the scene. When you only have 1 or 2 orgs with any money, and you have these external teams coming in just to play through the qualifiers, you aren't building the scene, you aren't improving infrastructure, and you're not making the competitive Dota there better. better. So they're completely robbing South America of any growth potential. And so we come back to how I started this little rapid recap, that Valve, in collaboration with Perfect World, have signed an agreement with the Shanghai government to launch Steam in China. Now, as the Chinese community is very angry with a few of these other players right now, they are issuing bans, they are looking for things to be done, and they want control of their own major, and they want control of TI. And Valve probably wants to launch Steam in China. Are we going to hear any clarity from them? Are they going to give us any rules or any information? Or are they going to focus on those dollar signs that comes from having Steam launch in China and making sure that their government relations stay strong? The DPC is currently in a disaster zone, and how Valve responds over the next week or so will make a very big impact on the actual future competitive integrity of Dota. If countries are allowed to pick and choose, and organizers can make the decisions of which players are acceptable and which ones aren't, the competitive integrity of Dota at its very core is in danger. The International has always been about the best players from around the world competing and uniting together for the best Dota that we can possibly see. The decisions Valve makes will determine if that is still the case for Dota in the year to come.